Okay, I have a question here from Dylan, who's actually directing his question towards Kavi. And it is, what was the experience of peeling away your ego in the presence of your partner's clean slate in the beginning?
Great question. Tough. But it was offset by the fact that I'd already done quite a lot of work, and there'd been a kind of 2-year demolition project of the more tenacious defense structures that I was suffering from. And so when I came into the relationship with Amoda, there was a raw readiness, and I sensed something for me in that. So I'm not sure whether I said it last week. So for instance, I'll tell this little story, Amoda, because I feel called to. After about 2 years, I think, we went to a cafe somewhere in London. And cafes were a bit of a trigger place for me because of my father was Victorian and a very rigid kind of person who didn't want to be exposed in public. And I carried that with me, a sort of shame and an intolerance of other people's behavior. And I carried that unbeknownst to me, really. And in the cafe, it was about 2 years into the relationship, or maybe sooner, I'm not sure. And this was the time when I was talking about where we try and put tentacles around each other and collude with each other in these games, collusive games. Well, in this cafe, suddenly something came over me, and I felt my father's shame, but in me, I didn't recognize it as my father. And I got triggered, but not by anything that Amoda did, just by my own thoughts of intolerance towards her. She shouldn't be behaving like this. She shouldn't be doing this. It should be like this. I've got to control this situation. Oh my God, what's going to happen? And I think I spat something out at her. The absolute details are a little bit vague, but I think I spat something out at her, as if a kind of don't do, like my father would do, God rest his soul. Don't do that. And what happened was, and you know, it was grace in a way that I saw the vibration of what left me land on her, not as the person, but I saw, honestly, this is the living truth. I saw something that was like a sea anemone in the ocean that was wide open like that. And as this frequency hit it, it went and it retracted a little bit. It diminished a little bit. It lessened a little bit. And in that moment, I saw how love dies. I saw how love dies when we just barter it, when we just play our games. And I remember that it lived with me for so long because I vowed at that time, with the resoluteness that I just mentioned earlier, not a willfulness, because willfulness implies that I want to really, but I feel like I shouldn't. That's the trouble with will, whereas resolve comes from a deeper place. It was like, is that going to be my destiny, to be in yet another dysfunctional relationship where we're just playing these endless games over and over, and that's my life pattern there, the same as my father, the same as my brother, the same as everybody else. And I'm like, I'm not playing that game. That I have the resolve to meet myself fully. So when it happens again, I stay with it. I stayed with it. That it is the momentum there within me? Yes, it is. It was in there for a while. And I ate it in humility, in humility, in humility. There's a great thing of humility because humility has humiliation in it. On the egoic level, we don't want to be humiliated because that's the worst possible thing that could happen to the ego. But to the self that's deeper than that, humility opens up when we surrender the willful, righteous ego and the doorway to humility opens up. And humility for men, as well as for everybody else, is an exquisite opportunity to be true. So I don't know, that answers some of it. Amoda wants to speak to that.
Yeah, may I just speak to that a little bit as well? Just to say that just to give a flavour of the dynamic, which was very well described there. You see, in that interaction, and in all interactions, or most interactions, definitely, certainly, and especially in the earlier days, you see, I as a person didn't have to do anything. I, as Amoda, the person, didn't have to say, "Ooh, that wasn't a very loving thing to say." I neither scolded him nor lauded my awakening over him, nor anything, nor guided him a different way, nor personally retracted. Yeah, Amoda is still here. Amoda was still there as presence and openness in that. She felt it, but what really felt it was love itself. The frequency field of love is what retracted, and both of us felt it. Both of us felt the frequency field of love, which is vibrant, which is almost tingling, which is almost shimmering. Yeah, that's how love feels. It's a shimmering love. It has both stillness in it and a kind of shimmeringness in it. And that frequency field is what got slightly dulled in that moment. It was a dulling of that. You could say that joy, because joy is the natural arising out of love, the field of love. It's not a joy that has to do with, it's not caused by anything. It's a causeless joy. It's not to do with something that I have or something that I possess or something that I know or something that it's or by somebody else giving me something. It's a causeless joy. It's just bubbling surface of the frequency field of love. And that's what just went, and we both felt it in the moment. In that moment, there was nothing I had to do, but also just be a witness to that. So if you like, love, that frequency field of love, we also call it the third body of love. Yeah. It's like a third body is created, a third frequency field, the personal there, the personal here, and a third body of love gets created, gets born out of this. It's like a holy trinity. Yeah. That does the work. And that's my personal experience in this relationship, is that I don't have to do anything. Love does it all. Which means that there's no person that has to battle with it. Of course, there's a human experience as well. Yeah, so we speak and we communicate and all of that. But essentially, it's not the personhood that is having to do anything, that is having to impose its will to make the relationship work or to make love grow or to do anything like that. And that's been a revolutionary and in some ways aspect and surprising, unexpected, previously not known, this dimension of love in relationship.
Yeah, that's very well said. I do. The result of this was because, you know, that it continued for me in various forms during this relationship, this struggle within myself. But the struggle was never within the relationship. It always ended up becoming, or was, my journey, you know, and she was able to mirror that, and out of that, such a deep surrender happened. And I, you know, if I'd have known that this was kind of possible many years ago, I would have thought, no, that's just ridiculous, that I could reach, that I could drop so many of these defensive strategies. And I have to say to people out there, listen, if I can drop all these defensive strategies and be open and clear, you know, then anybody can, really. It's like, and then this joy that Amoda referred to, which has always been there, but now it just sort of is when there's no particular, when there's nothing buried under the carpet, there's nothing carried into each moment or each hour or each day, then it becomes like you say, an effervescent, tingling, you know, and alive, just an aliveness. It's not high end and it's not low end. It's actually with two of the most ordinary people in many ways that you could imagine. And we've got this super ordinary state in some sort of ways, but our next door neighbors just know us as Kavi and Amoda. It's just like, but there's this constant bubbling stream that doesn't actually need to be fed anymore. It doesn't need to be reached. It's there permanently, and that's a blessing. And that's for me. I give thanks that happened. And did it require some work? She's worked so hard on herself in the past before I came onto the scene. You wouldn't believe it. Have I worked hard? Boy, have I worked hard. You know, I've been through such stuff. And, you know, is this the result of that? I have no idea. I just know that, you know, if you want it, you keep the resolve to keep deepening, keep deepening, keep deepening.